Welcome back to Hawaii Real, everybody. I have with me one of my friends from way back in the old school days, high school times, Kanoho Koko. Kanoho, bro, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Kanoho is the owner of Aloha Made Easy, which is a content creation company. You delve in like social media, content creation, that kind of thing.
Yep.
You're also the owner of Common Ground Media Entertainment.
Yes.
So that's number 2. Wait, guys, there's a lot of this. You're a partner in Tails Up Hawaii, which is like a fishing
outfitter, and we provide fresh seafood.
Yeah, you charter
the boats as well.
the boats.
Yep.
Okay, and owner and operator. This is a newer one. Strugglers Union, which is a one-stop shop for anybody that is like struggling. And I asked him about this off camera. I was like, struggling with what? Like finances, business, family? He's like, everything. Like if you're struggling, period.
Everything.
You guys help them out.
We do. Yep.
So that's we'll get into that. And yeah, thanks for coming on, man. You brought some poke for us too.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. So, and those are the things that I got going on in the background. But I recently left a job that I was with for 12 years with another fishing outfitter that was exporting fish. I quit that. I thought I was going to retire and just kind of dive into the personal stuff. But I got picked up by this company, Fresh Island Fish. And so currently I'm doing sales and marketing for them. And I just started their IG page. So we went from 0 to about 2,300 followers within a month, 2 months or so.
Wow.
But that's the fish that I got for you today. So, and hopefully later on as this progresses, I'll be able to give away some of that poke.
Yeah, we're going to have a poke giveaway.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
That's cool. So if you're listening, stay tuned.
Absolutely.
All right, man. So what happened after high school? You went off to college? Like what?
Right after high school, actually, I kind of stayed close to home. Got into UH, but ended up going to HCC, community college.
Yeah.
And all because Pops was kind of at that age where it was best for us to be closer to home. But what happened was amazing because I was actually going to school for an English degree. I wanted to be a screenwriter.
Interesting.
But my roommate was in the design program at UH.
Uh-huh.
And we were bunking, and I would share my school work, and he'd give us insight of like what they're doing. So I write these stories based on like some of the work that he was doing. It was sci-fi, and he was struggling on this design option that he's trying to get correct for like a solar car design. And it just wasn't clicking. But I was writing this story and fictionalizing what was happening with this vehicle. I had this idea in my head, and as I penned it out, it was exactly what he was looking for. And so
it's like your science fiction was actually more science fact.
Right. And so I kind of, played into it. And at that time too, I was so in love with sci-fi, just like how the visions of like Star Trek produced our LCD TVs today.
Yeah.
So like I really loved that. And just by coincidence, it's what he needed. So I kind of fell into this design program, and then took that to Cal Poly for about a semester or two. And from that, scored an internship, worked for this company in Oklahoma called Clover Smith and Bode. Ended up designing this interior for this hotel in Florida. As a student, as a paid intern, I realized like, man, if I'm to succeed at this, if I'm to continue my schooling, I would just end up working for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, at this point too, coming out of Kamehameha, we graduated. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to date us, but we exited right when CAD was available to us on a high school level.
Yes, I
when
remember.
Most of the
CAD,
nation didn't even know what CAD was.
Yeah.
So we had an huge upper hand. So when I went to HCC, they actually started a program there, and so that helped me design what my roommate needed. And then entering the workforce on an intern level, I realized like the guys that we're working for have no idea how this works.
Mm-hmm.
We have an advantage. So I ended up taking 2 of the interns, and we started our own design company.
Nice.
So we ended up in Colorado. We created a company from nothing, and we found out that it didn't matter if you had the perfect design. If you couldn't sell it, it was a dead duck. So after that, I dove into how to properly sell stuff. And Mind you, too, before, right after school, I was working for Cutter Motor Cars as a car salesman to put myself through school and whatnot. And from that, if you want to get into sales, that's probably the roughest format. I don't
Selling
recommend it
cars.
to anybody.
No, yeah, it's hard.
But you know what it taught me was not necessarily how to sell, but it taught me more about myself and how I want to be sold to, and that changed my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Hawaii Real. And if you've watched this far, you're entitled to this password. It is Hawaii Real eats real fresh fish. So if you're tuning in, what we need you to do is like, subscribe, and comment down below for a chance to win $100 worth of poke. So now we have this design company. Got me, combined age was like 60 between the three of us. And we just start underbidding everybody. We start undercutting people in the industry. We start utilizing our CAD, and the company became successful. Then I sold that. I kind of got burnt out of it because it was like a constant grind. But what I pulled away from that was that foundation in sales. And honestly, I don't really call it sales now because it's just kind of a cheapened term to it. I really don't have a term for it right now. But what I did derive was a system in my head that I call conversational selling. Right. So in all earnesty, I try to have a real honest conversation with anybody. And if there is a need that I know I can either fulfill, or if I know somebody else that can do it, I would dive into it unabashedly, very unapologetically. And so far, it's been good. So that's why I have so many different things kind of available as far as like our services. Because I think in Hawaii, it's really hard to find a one-stop shop, especially if you want to transcend into quote unquote like what the mainland is doing. Right. You know, we're always a little bit behind the curve. So I really want to try and help anybody who is looking to kind of get a leg up in that industry. So we do, complete brand outs. People come to us with an idea, we reshape it for them. We consider a logo design, even down to the more moral fiber of the company, where they got to present a mission statement, and we kind of make them come to life, and then do a full-on campaign for them. That's if they want to stick with us, but most everyone sticks with us. So I've had a couple of classmates, and actually, there's one classmate in particular I do owe an apology to because I actually been out of commission for a while, and if she's watching this, I apologize. We'll finish some of the work, I promise. But it's along those lines, and that's kind of where it's led me. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you could just call me a salesman. As cheap as it sounds, I don't mind because that's pretty much what I do. But
is that what you're passionate about?
I'm actually, when I was younger, I had a disdain for people, like crowds. Not for people. I said that incorrectly, but I was somewhat of an introvert, other than like the crew that we had. And firsthand, like we just kind of like the tight niche. And so what happened was, I think I found a passion for people, right? And I think I found a bit of joy in being able to like share some insight and like, hey, would this work for you? And for me, that's kind of the pay that I've been that's the high that I chase, and then like, it's a kick too to drive around and you see something that you did or you're a part of. And like, to me, that's something I can, right now we have a 10-year-old. And so I always get a kick out. I was like, oh, you see that? Like, oh, I talked to the person. I don't think I did it.
That's Daddy's job. Yeah, Daddy helped at that.
And so, it's totally like that. Cool. And earlier on, I think it was a lot about the money. But now, not that it's not about the money, right? We all need that. It's just how our society is operating. But if I could operate on just like high fives and good jobs, I'm a happy man.
Yeah. So basically, like, helping people is your thing.
Right now, yeah, I like to say that. Yeah, and I think people that know me might. I hope they say the same thing. Yeah, like the company I'm with right now, they could have picked up anybody because they're, they bought a 30-year-old company, and they brought a whole new outlook for the employees there. They have a different mission at hand. And they could have hired anybody they wanted. But luckily, I kind of got the position, and it's this nice, really solid, homegrown feel, 100% locally owned. And I think, I haven't really looked at it, lately, but we're doing maybe 12, 14, maybe 15 million a year
That's all.
for a local company. and
That's good. Yeah.
like but that's raising since they took over, they've increased it 40%.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was the secret? I mean, what was the big difference? And honestly, the only two things I see is that they really practice and preach locally owned and operated. And I think they just honestly love their employees. I mean, I feel it. I'm still employed. There's other people that, just given the situation, we had to let go, but it's an open door, you know. And for me too, I know as this progresses through these times, I mean, um, nobody's safe,
Right.
So we take the blessings as they come. So anybody else out that's watching this, that's not in house right now. We love you guys, and we look forward to you guys coming back too. So, one of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So what about how? One of your things is the fishing industry. You're dealing with bringing in fish.
that's correct. So fresh
So
island. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So with this whole pandemic and stuff like that, is there anything? Because originally it was coming out of like wet markets and stuff in China, right?
Right.
Has that like had an effect on the markets here?
You
Or-
know, in a manner of speaking, yes, absolutely. I think just the market itself is dependent on the need of the people,
Mhm.
right? The need is still there, but the ability to kind of go and get it has entirely shut down. So we've had to make adjustments. We manage 25 vessels locally owned that fish. We've only been successfully able to launch maybe 2 in a week, maybe 3, maybe, as opposed to like 5, 6, or 8 boats.
Is that just because of manpower, or is that just because like not enough
Not enough outlets right now.
demand?
That's correct. Yep. So, our customers included, I know I'll save the names, but like hotels,
Mm.
across because we're not only operating on Oahu, we're on the different islands too. So as those hotels slowly do what they need to do, that takes off from our bottom line. So to kind of circumvent that, in the last week we ran this phenomenal special, and it was the first time that the company decided to do retail sales. It was entirely wholesale prior to this. So it took a little over a week, almost 2 weeks maybe, for retail, where we offered sashimi grade tuna for $4 a pound in 5-pound chunks. And it was
What does it normally retail at?
it would normally retail closer to like $20, $21 a pound. Anything
Jesus.
it would be up there. The mainline customers would be paying like $30 a pound for the same product. But we were filling two needs, right? One, locally, as a grocery stores, we're kind of running empty on shelves for proteins, beef. We don't have a natural source, or a ready natural source or local source for like beef or pork.
Correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong on that, so I apologize. If the comments come through, I'm sorry. I'm just speaking generally in the
No,
amount that
we
we're
don't.
doing.
Right? Not enough for the population.
Right. And then so fishing, we have it available to us in our backyard. And it's right now it's entirely underutilized. And it's there, the fish is there. We have one of the most healthiest fisheries in the world, I would say. It's managed by NOAA. They have it to a point where there's counters on the boat. If need be, there's an actual NOAA fish official that's counting the pieces of tuna that come on. So as far as overfishing, it's a very huge misnomer here locally. But so going back to trying to help two situations. One, locally proteins are running out and it's harder for people to get it. And then two, we have an overabundance of fish coming through. So it's either going to go to waste or, there's only so much poke I can personally eat. So the retail was a natural thing.
So more people here in Hawaii need to start looking at fresh fish that's being brought off the boats here locally as their source of dietary protein.
Absolutely. As this progresses, I know the shipping lanes are still open. Thankfully enough for that, our shipping lanes are open despite the rumors. But for proteins, this is something that's readily available that might not see the scourge of inflation, because the shipping lanes are open, but on the mainland, they're experiencing the same things, right? Beef is eventually going to have a number to it. Pork is going to have a number to it. And it takes a certain amount of time to ranch the beef to the certain age that, we can see it hit the market. Here, tuna is just ready to be caught. And it sounds, I'm oversimplifying, I know, but it's there. It's there and it's ready, especially for us here in Hawaii. It's been a commodity that locals really haven't had a chance to enjoy thoroughly because of the prices. So everybody that came through, the response, we had no idea what to expect. The first day, we ended up causing a traffic jam with Nimitz. We're
I
off of
heard
Pier
about that. Yeah.
38, so we had to be regulated in some form, but we had no idea the response was going to be so phenomenal. So
Hmm.
we adjusted. We rearranged it. We made sure that we could even help more people. And at this point, too, we're not limiting anybody to take it. So people are coming in with the mindset of that old Hawaii mindset of just take what you need. The first 2 or 3 days.
Hmm.
Then as it progressed, the word got out. I think people were kind of like, "Oh, is this going to run out?" And they wanted to buy more. And then of course we did the smart thing to start limiting the people.
Hmm.
But it still worked out. The response has been 100% positive. Our Instagram page blew up. We didn't do zero market. We paid zero for advertising. So that's a phenomenon that I also want to talk about too, because spending nothing to generating 2 weeks of just lines of 100 plus people every single day until we ended at special.
It's like your customer acquisition was low.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we found another market for us too, the retail side.
Uh-huh.
And we've always toyed with the idea of potentially, and the Dang family that owns and operates the company, phenomenal. They consist of brothers, sisters too, but what they do is they compile their collective creative energy and they present the best possible outcome. But what I like about it is that we first consider the worst outcome so we can find the best possible solution. And so that's where we are right now. Retail sales went off. The last day was on the 31st, and it was a force to be reckoned with. We had no idea. But the amount of love that came from the community, we love you guys. Thank you so much. And they just want more. Right?
Where can they go to get this stuff?
So this is we sell it right at our gates at Pier 38
Mm-hmm.
at Fresh Island Fish. We're above Uncle's.
That's where Nico's Fish Market is.
Right. So they're right across of us. And that's another thing too. So like we created this energy of being able to kind of, provide something for the masses, and people caught on because I'm not saying that we started this, but Nico's was able to sell loins to the public too. So when we ran out, we just sent them to Nico's. So thankfully they had fresh tuna in house and they were selling slabs and they did what they needed to do. Otani's across the street, produce wise, they also helped causing the traffic jam. So it wasn't just us, but they were phenomenal producing, boxes of produce for pennies to the dollar of what normally would cost, hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably did the two things too, So, but yeah, it's those kind of things that you just can't pay for.
So, in the fishing industry, you were telling me off camera that you guys use a special kind of paint with copper properties in it that kills off the barnacles and stuff like that on the boats.
That's right.
Is that like a long time known thing for maritime
Yeah,
vessels to use copper?
it goes back a while, and it was found out that incorporating copper into the paint for the hulls prevented any type of organic growth, barnacles mainly. So the barnacles were just ravaging boats, I guess, left and right, and somehow they realized that hey, this copper stuff is barnacle free, and now we know it to be an naturally antimicrobial product. Element,
Yeah, yeah. So,
you know.
copper is like the one metal that the EPA has classified as an antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral surface.
That's right. As we progress through this pandemic, they were talking about the lifespan of the coronavirus on different surfaces,
Right,
and they found that on copper it had a lifespan of about 4 hours.
right.
So the copper naturally did the work necessary to break down the protective barrier, I guess, in the virus, and
Yeah.
eventually eliminating it, exposing it to, subjecting it to its end. So that actually that actually prompted me to write to the CDC. A lot
You
of
actually
people
wrote
out
to the
there. I
CDC?
wrote to the CDC. I have the email. We can post it up. It's true. And my idea was that if we had some type of copper inhalant would that be a direct? Would that have any direct effect on the virus that was in the lungs? Because I'm sure there's some levels of copper that we can, humanely intake. I mean, copper is already part of our makeup, or like even ingesting it, would that help? And they wrote back, and they actually had a positive review on it, and they said that they would look into it, and they said thank you for the suggestion. But I'm sure they're bombed with so many different things. However, it's shown that copper actually has um, an effect on it.
Yeah, and we've known for like generations that
Generations.
copper works. The ancient Egyptians used copper in their medical, like surgeries and stuff like that, and wounds and stuff. They would put copper on it, and all their medical tools were made of copper.
Right, and even like after all is said and done, the pandemics of the old days, they found like spots where survival rates were higher, and it's like before. I really can't date it, but like before the understanding of sterilization and whatnot, but their cooking utensils, they found that in smaller villages were all copper. This is just like by happenstance that they realized, like, hey, wait a minute, these guys were eating off of this copper stuff, and these guys were eating like off of wooden bowls. Huge difference.
Yeah.
But
So the cholera epidemic in the 1800s, there was a scientist that actually studied how come this one group of this one profession had lower rates of death from the cholera epic, and it was dramatically lower, not just a little bit lower. But he found that copper workers
oh,
in the city, like hardly any of them got cholera, even though their family members or anything like that they did and died because it was a wide epidemic and killed millions of people. But the copper workers were the least hit, and it was by far. And so there's documented scientific study on that from the 1800s, which isn't that long ago. I mean,
right,
it is. It's
right,
Civil War time, but
right. Well, I mean, pandemically speaking, that's not that long ago.
right. It's only like 150 years ago or something like
Right.
that. I mean,
Yeah.
in the lifespan of the world, it's not
And
that
I
big.
remember, and I wish I could recall the article too, but back in 2018, there was an article that I came across, and the person that was writing it was saying, and I quote, "We're due for an outbreak." It was
Mm-hmm.
100 years after, I believe, the Spanish flu, and the person said, "We're due for this outbreak." And I'll go back and try and find that, but so it made me think like we are, and now here we are, 2020, and it's on us, you know.
Yep.
So these things are cyclical to an extent, but like what happens if we incorporate copper into our everyday lives now? How would
Right.
that change things?
Like our
How
door handles, our doorknobs, car
the stuff that we're
handles.
spraying with sanitizer now?
Right.
Yeah.
The things that we're sanitizing all the time right
How can
now.
we
I
use
mean,
it now?
we're wearing these respirators, right? What if we
Right.
had like copper material?
Right. Instead of charcoal,
Right.
copper.
Because once that virus gets on it, and so one of the things that's being studied now with copper also, and I haven't found decisive uh, scientific documentation on this, but once the virus, any virus, not just the COVID 19,
Right.
but the virus, we're talking about bacteria and viruses. Yes, it takes hours for it to die on copper, but once it's on the copper, it doesn't transmit off the
That's
copper
correct.
as
Yeah.
easily. It sticks on that
Yeah.
copper and it already starts to break down almost immediately, like within a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So while it still survives on the copper, it doesn't come off the copper when somebody else touches it.
Right.
And that's important, right? Because now you were talking about
Huge.
transmission. It's like
Huge.
look at New York City, like all these people
Right.
getting sick. And why New York City? Well, they use subways a whole hell of a lot. Like
Right.
everybody's
The
in the
railings.
subway. The
Everybody's
railings,
on it.
they're
Right.
touching, they're
Everything.
swiping their
Everything.
cards on the
Yeah.
railway, on the entry thing to get into
Everything.
the subway.
Taxi cabs.
Right, everybody's hitting that block, the door block
Sure.
when they're
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
subway
Pushing
and
it
stuff
open.
like that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to walk through
Millions
it,
of people.
and right, so you're getting, like, if somebody
Right.
has it on their clothing and they're walking through the subway entry thing, and that opens that door, that little waist high
You
door,
got it.
it's on there.
Yep.
And then the next person, it's going to get on their pants, and the next person's going to get on their pants, and then you're going to
Yeah.
put your hands in your pocket, you're going to fiddle with this, fiddle with that, and that's how you're really transmitting it with,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's why
in the
social
subways.
distancing is like, I mean, one of our key things right now to the success of flattening out this curve.
Yeah.
But then we should probably say at this moment, like, I'm not a medical professional,
Me neither.
but we are just wondering, like, hey, this stuff is out there. This
Yeah.
information is out there, and you stated that talking to some medical professionals, they didn't know about the properties of copper.
Right. I've talked to
You
some
know,
medical professionals. Some absolutely knew it, and then they were like, "Well, it's cost prohibitive to have that kind of stuff in the hospitals and
right,
stuff."
right,
It's like, what? Look at now. Like, what's the cost
yeah,
of
yeah,
not having an antibacterial, permanently antibacterial surface that
that's
will
correct.
disinfect itself overnight?
And just looking at the basic necessities right now, the masks are running short. But if you had one that is essentially, I'll say this loosely, but self-cleaning, right? I
Yeah.
mean, how much more safer is that to reuse the mask again? So maybe there's something there. That's what we're saying. There's got to be.
Yeah.
We're looking for something because, like you said earlier, off camera, you're self isolating too,
Yeah.
right? Being exposed, and then for us, we're still working. So every day we go to work, it's back to day one again for us.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So like these things are on our mind constantly. We can't escape it. Especially, I haven't um, double-edged sword. Wanting to be able to stay home, but also work,
Yeah.
right? So there's that disparity now. Like, working from home, that option is available to us, but it's almost unfair because our production guys, our laborers, the blue collar guys, they still have to check in. So it's almost fair that if they're still there, our us guys that's pushing the pencils upstairs, we should be checking in too. That's kind of like where we are right now. But like if we had these means, if there was something that this is proven, this copper it's proven, it's proven. Like what if we just tried it
Right.
in the workplace? What if we just had like copper jacketed pencils, pens, or copper plated keyboards, all the stuff that we touch on the daily. Like I want to go and build our copper cell phone case right now. That's how I feel about
It's funny you bring that up. So you
it.
can't have a copper cell phone
That's
case.
correct. And the reason is,
It acts as a Faraday,
yeah,
so it blocks out maybe not all
not
of
all
the
signals, right?
transmission to your cell phone, all the data coming into your cell phone, but it'll block most of it. So you
Yeah,
can't
that's
have a
correct.
completely encased copper cell phone case.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because with 5G turning the corner, a lot of talk is going on about the safety of it,
Yeah.
and if it's true or not. um, and then like how 5G should change our existence now. But that signal is is subjected to penetration. It doesn't do well for
It doesn't.
penetration.
It
It
doesn't go
does not.
through walls and
It doesn't
stuff.
go through walls at all. So
Windows, glass.
it's kind of a crazy thing because if we're going to depend on this to like run our self-driven vehicles for our first responders, it's good because on paper the latency is supposed to be close to like 1 millisecond or something,
Yep.
so that it's instant. But being able to disrupt the signal is very easy.
Yeah.
You can do it. So it's curious to see how the world's going to pan out. But I can only imagine that the companies that are in power right now just want to put up some kind of one of their products that's going to allow this thing to go through anything. So you're going to have it on everything: your cars, the roads, the houses, the sidewalks, everything and anything's going to have this product. Whoever creates it first, right?
This 5G
This
product.
5G product.
Yeah, 5G is coming. I mean,
It's
if you're talking
coming.
about the copper age and then you're going to like
Yeah,
5G, it's like those are the things that might end up changing our society a little bit.
exactly.
A little
Exactly.
bit, I mean, exaggerating, right? So you might have copper everywhere. I personally carry around a little piece of copper just to, fiddle in my
Sure.
pocket and put it on my hands and stuff like that.
And the
And
use of like copper bracelets has been around for a long
right,
time.
right.
You know,
Now, I'm not saying it takes the place of hand sanitizer and washing your hands. It doesn't,
no,
but it's an addition to,
right?
right? And this is like $2 at Home Depot. Like
Yeah,
this is not something you can't afford, right?
right, right,
How hard is it to find hand sanitizer?
right.
Right. Go to Home Depot and there's a crap ton of these.
So a lot of people are gonna ask about, oh, I thought money was dirty though. So if I just held a bunch of pennies,
So pennies are
copper
covered.
makeup,
They're covered in copper, but they're also zinc.
zinc,
But
yeah,
I mean, yes, pennies are
yeah,
made of copper, so you could. Um, but I don't know. I just liked having the rolling thing on the
yeah.
copper. I'm sure there's going to be other products coming out that are kind of fiddle things for people to
Yeah.
play around with in
Well,
their
if they
hands.
come up with that copper filtered mask, then you heard it here, first, folks. So
You heard it here
that's
first.
right,
Copper
real
filtered
Hawaii.
masks. Funny you should say that because I already ordered some copper material.
Oh yeah.
The Faraday bag materials.
Oh yes,
Yes.
yes. You gotta keep me
So
posted
I
on
mean, it's a
those.
huge thing to have that Faraday material because there are some people that have it all around their walls and
Right,
stuff like that to
right.
block out um, electronic signals coming in
Yeah,
and out.
yeah. And they got real popular too with like wallets.
Yes,
You
the
know, for the
RFID
RF. Yeah.
wallets and stuff
So
like that. Which that was actually more of a farce
right,
than
right.
the
Yeah,
antivirus stuff.
yeah.
But
Great marketing play.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, what is somebody gonna do with your like transmission from your wallet?
yeah.
You're gonna steal all your information. They can't do that. What are you talking about? They would have to be so close to you. I guess if you're on a subway and they're standing right next to
Right.
you, leaning up on you, they
Yeah.
probably could.
And there's a reason why it's called tap. You know, like I mean, like you'd have to. Yeah, I mean, the proximity you'd have to be. I
Really
guess social
close.
distancing is doing a better job than those
It is, right?
protectors. But yeah, copper.
Yeah. So,
Best in
besides,
copper.
yeah. So I mean, you got copper, right? The world's miracle material, and that's also with this pandemic. It's also forcing people to stay home
Right.
and work from home. And there's a lot of people, and I see them posting on Facebook that they're bored. They're at home and they're bored
Right.
and blah blah blah. And there are the other people who are at home with their children and they're like, oh my god, pulling their hair out because it's so much being a parent and a teacher.
Right.
You know, it's overwhelming.
Hmm.
And then there are other people that are posting that they're just bored.
Right.
It's like, guys, if you're bored,
What's going on?
yeah, do something.
Yeah.
Like figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, find a way to make money. That we all have supercomputers in our pockets.
This is true. You know, and I think the cell phone is totally underrated when it comes to actually generating income. You know, I think especially in these times, I think resources need to be reevaluated. You know, not only physical resources, but also our own gifts and talents. You know, they should be leveraged in these times. In fact, I think honestly, we'll see trading and bartering become a very viable, very viable pastime. I don't know if pastime is a word for it, but
Mm-hmm.
very, very, very real. Where money might not be the currency, you know, for those who don't have it, but they have a skill set or they have services that they can offer. I mean, that's something that needs to be explored for sure.
Like right now, you have people at home making
Face
homemade
masks,
masks and
right?
stuff like that.
You
It's
know,
like
and
that's a manufacturing job that you're doing on your own.
that's correct. And there's so many ways, and I kind of roll my eyes at this thing I'm going to tell you right now, but you know, Amazon's a huge vehicle to generate income.
It is.
And there's a lot of information on there that people are trying to sell you to generate income for themselves. But if you really take a hard and honest look at what Amazon is, it's just this huge, massive selling platform.
Mhm.
You can sell anything. And to that point, what they've actually done, and I mean, if you have it in you can try it out yourself. For me, I can't. I can sew a little. I can make my daughter's costumes for Halloween, and she's kind enough to use them. You know, but if I was trying to take on that endeavor, I really don't know where to start. We have a sewing machine. So what I did instead was I put together a 16-page do-it-yourself face mask book, and I published it on Amazon. It's zero to read if you have a Kindle, but if you're gonna buy it, it's $2.99. In fact, I have it on discount right now at 99 cents. So I have it written and published under a ghostwriter's name that I always use for random stuff. But you can do those things. So I have a book on there, and it's already generated a handful of sales. Now, yes, I get to benefit off of that, but I really produce a product where people can kind of gravitate to. And if it's not for them, then I'm gonna choose it. You know, so we're at this point where is it possible for me to generate income and feel good about it? There's a lot of other companies that is capitalizing on the welfare or of our current status. And there's a lot of companies that you just raise an eyebrow to, like, seriously, is that what you guys are doing right now? But in this, honestly, the face mask and being able to make it has been like one of the most positive things to happen here in Hawaii because
Yep.
everyone is participating.
Yep.
They're giving it away, they're selling it justly, and it's actually doing good.
They're coming out with all different kinds of designs, and
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
they're
so
making it a thing.
the creativity is where people start separating
Yeah.
themselves, right? So you can create one that's commonplace, you create one that's going to be custom fitted, whatever the case might be. People that are bored, take some time out. How can we service our neighbor? How can we service ourselves?
Hmm.
How can I go beyond just what I see in front of me? So it's a hard thing because if you haven't been forced to think, I hate to say this, outside the box, it's gonna be harder. You're gonna get bored, right? But if we take a hard look at what's going on, Madrid, Spain, 65 older patients have decided to forego their respirator treatment to give it to some of the younger patients. So that's going on right now. That's this morning. So the gravity of the situation is there, and for most of us, we really won't get it until it's happening to us, right? So right now, if we're bored, I understand that because it's an adjustment we need to make, but take the time and energy, take the life that we got right now, put into something that's gonna help yourself, help others. Yeah, we're talking about now. This time we've been given this gift of time, and it just depends on how you look at it. For
Yep.
some people, it's like the worst thing ever because I myself I get a bit of cabin fever, and it's hard when you live in Hawaii. You want to be outside.
Hmm.
But it gives us a chance to also reflect, and so for me, I'm still working, but every moment I have to myself, I'm thinking about what's going to happen.
Hmm.
What can I do? And of course, you got to be able to let go of the things that's out of your control, you know. And I think that's a difficult thing in these times. Um, and I believe the inability to let go of those things we can't control causes those unwanted dynamic where the hoarding starts. Like, oh my gosh, I need these things now because that's the only thing I can control.
Toilet paper. Yeah.
Like toilet paper. Stock for Charmin just goes through the roof. But
Clorox too. Oh my God,
Clorox is
the stock for Clorox is
yeah,
skyrocketed.
yeah, and who knew that bottle of rubbing alcohol could fetch such a high dollar price these days?
Hmm.
It's been in my cabinet for like 3 years. I could sell it for like $50.
I know it's like more than gas,
You know,
and gas prices have tanked.
yeah, I'll just take the $50 and buy copper. But it's
Hmm.
neither here nor there. But yeah, so I think looking at it right now, we talked a bit about it where who knows what the unemployment rate is going to be if we're going to hit that 25, 30% here because we're so heavily dependent on on our tourism.
Hmm.
So what are we really going to do? What are we really going to do? And I think it's going to allow people to take a hard look at our resources, not only what we have monetarily, but in talent and skills, and how can we leverage those things. So this is kind of like a call to arms, really. What can I do for myself? What can I do for my neighbor? And it's a hard thing because with the social distancing, how can we readily go ask our neighbor, hey, you need a hand with that? But to have that mentality, I think is important. To hold on to that is important in these times. If we're healthy, if we're still alive, if we're symptom free, stay that way as best as possible. For the better good. But then, as soon as this thing blows over, what can I do for my fellow man?
Hmm.
And it's a hard thing to think about because we want to protect our home front first. But honestly, I believe the welfare of our neighborhoods, our community, will ultimately lend to the welfare of our own families and Ohanas. So working from home, crucial. Networking is crucial. I think networking, there's a lot of misconception of what networking is. I think a lot of people think, okay, I have a business, I have a product, I'm going to go out there and network. But if you're doing that, you're talking to complete strangers, you're actually doing outreach marketing. It's not networking. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, but here's where I come from. When I think about networking, I think about the hukilau. When I think about the hukilau, we have a huge net. We're all helping pulling these things in, and it's what you find along your net is what true networking is. So I'm talking about everybody has at least 3 layers of people that they can network in. At least. Very simple. So you have your own family, you have your friends, and you have professional contacts. That's your true network. If you want to truly understand networking, take it from some of the oldest businesses in um, around these days, which is the insurance companies. If you were to sign up to become an insurance agent, as soon as you pass all your necessary certifications, the first thing they ask you is to contact your family members, contact your friends, because that is your true network. So now I'm not talking about trying to sell your network things. I'm asking you to actually look deeper and see who in my direct network has a gift or talent that I can use,
Mhm.
and who can I help with my own. So this is what networking is. Because if you're doing anything else outside of that, in fact, if you're talking to strangers and you're actually talking to them about your product, you're actually doing direct sales. That's the honest truth. But if we really take a hard look at what networking truly is, it is talking to your spouse. It is talking to your child, to your child's parent, even to your child's doctor. It's all there. If you want to really make income that can be generated from inside the home, you got to start here first. It's a hard thing because here locally, we're less prone to ask for favors from people who know, oh,
Right.
brother, you can borrow
Right.
this or whatever else. And it's our culture, but we have to look at it counterculturally. And I understand this thoroughly because for myself, I believe when I first started, no, not I believe, I know that entrepreneurially, I was just looking at dollar signs. And a lot has changed for me. The biggest change was, and I'll say this knowing the fallout that's to come. In 2015, I came to Christ. So
Okay.
becoming a
Good.
Christian
Good. Good.
has changed my entire outlook and everything. And it's a lot for me to kind of go into and explain, but truly where I'm coming from is in my family, my father was Catholic, my mother was Buddhist, and they never pushed the religion onto us. But I would take Dad's teachings to us to heart because what he taught us was what he learned about his religion, about treating your neighbor with love, you know, um, pray for your enemies. These things that just sound so foreign to me as a young kid it really upset me. Like, what? This doesn't make sense. And then it came the notion of like what heaven is supposed to be. And it was kind of positioned as like a carrot dangling. Like, if you want to get here to this place that's paved in gold, you got to be good.
Mhm.
And for me, the draw of that heaven wasn't enough. And so I lived a life of like chasing. I used to be like a adrenaline junkie. I would push the limits. Um, bought my first bike when I was 16. Well, mom probably don't even know about it, but bury that needle going down.
Jesus.
But it was like that because I never liked the thought of somebody else being in charge of my life, and so I
Mhm.
would kind of push it. But now, as I come to understand truly um, what I believe Christianity truly is, and I belong to a non-denominational church where we get a chance to really understand the word. I'll say this very loosely. I know that's gonna open the door to a lot of things, but when I understand myself and how everything I've done has been related to sales, I understand Christ and his mission was actually the best salesperson because his conviction of his product, of his salvation that he wanted to give to others, there's nothing else that parallels to his belief in what he was trying to do.
Well, no, you look at Jesus Christ. He is the biggest salesperson on the planet,
Absolutely.
hands down.
Yeah. And so
Well, maybe Muhammad and Buddha.
there's some people that, will rival, but as far as like his conviction, any good salesperson, you have to believe in the product, right?
Yeah.
But what I've come to understand in my own walk with Christ is that we've been given gifts,
Hmm.
spiritual, physical, talents. And there's some that are listed in the Bible spiritually and they fall into place. But then under that is your talents that you've been given. And for me, what happened was I was kind of using it incorrectly, if that makes any sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was using it for all personal gain.
Sure.
And you can only do that for so long because I was in Colorado. I was happy. I was making more money than I thought because moving there, rent is extremely cheap. So I instantly gave myself a raise when I moved to Colorado. Um, I had the friends that I thought were friends. I had the place. I had what I thought was the picture perfect life.
Hmm.
But every morning waking up feeling like there's got to be something else. Like, what am I missing here? And I used to chase these bigger sales, and I would go for bigger clients and bigger this and bigger that. But there was always something missing, and I realized that I get a better sense of satisfaction helping somebody else.
Right.
And I never understood that because I was somewhat of an introvert. You know, Um, I would hide behind the telephone and be able to make these sales and talk eloquently about my product, but I would never want to have the interaction face to face. But as soon as I realized that somebody, I guess I look at it this way. One day we were on YLI and we saw a homeless woman doing her business in the shrubs, my wife and I. And we both saw that we both were brand new Christians, and so we had this energy about us, right? We're on fire for the Lord. And so we start praying for her. It's like, oh Lord, give her what she needs to say, protect her, and we had empathy for her.
Hmm.
We went about our day, and as we were coming back on Wale, she had put up a little spot in front of what is Pipeline Cafe right now, and she was selling these little trinkets, and for exchange of money so she could buy food. In that instant, I saw her. I realized that my prayers for her could be instantly answered if I just did something about it. So, in understanding how I'm to interact with my fellow man, I sat here praying with empathy for this lady. Little did I know that God already put me in place to be the help that she needed.
Mm.
And so, the prayer that I gave, where she would be fed this day, I could actually do it.
Right.
And I realized at that moment my path was correct. And we did that. So we provided her with a meal, gave her a prayer, and it changed my perspective. There's a lot of people that's praying for others right now. There's
Hmm.
a lot of people, even for ourselves, we're praying for many different things. But if it gets to the point where you're bold enough and brave enough to understand if the Lord has put you in a position to actually enact the change and be the change, then you could potentially answer that prayer for someone else. I'm not talking about miracles here. I'm talking about just the welfare of your fellow man. And that goes beyond anything I can do by myself, you know. So I realized that all the gifts I've been given on being able to be creative, to create something from nothing, to take someone's idea and manifest it into reality. If I did that for the right reasons, um, I found joy in it, and it was fulfilling. So it changed how we operate now. Even the companies that you mentioned earlier, Strugglers Union is actually based and rooted in that foundation where everyone has their own struggles. Even for Christians now, as they struggle to stay within the Word, especially in times like this when tragedy is just all over, it just seems like the natural question would be like, "Where's God?" Right? But God was here with us before, and God is here with us now, and He'll be there tomorrow. But what are we going to empower ourselves to do under His guidance? And that's kind of the difference I live now. And as I sit here with you, being a friend back in high school, I might be the furthest thing from a Christian, most would perceive,
Yeah. No.
you know. But I think
He was a nice kid in high school. Just throwing
I
that out
try to be. Um, but so when I talk about religion, um, there's so many things that can be taken,
there. Hmm.
off topic and whatnot. So from my standpoint, that's kind of where I'm at. The Lord has had different intentions for us. This is not the existence that we were supposed to be in, but here we are now. And so he's given us a chance to kind of go back to him. And he's given us these tools that are necessary to help others.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then for me, I think a lot of times when people would preach to me when I was younger, it was a huge turnoff because one, I didn't want to hear it. Two, it sounded like a lot of work to be a good person. But what I've come to understand is not about being good. There's a lot of people that I know that are more good than me, more righteous than me, but they're not Christians and they think they're living a good life. But no, it's more about character. And that's what I've come to learn. When I read the Bible, it's a mirror for me. And it takes me a hard look. It gives me a hard look at myself. When I read through the word, what it's telling me is like, are you this person that will leave a fellow man in the streets? Or are you going to be the one that stops and help, regardless of your own current situation? It doesn't matter if you have anything to give, if you have the ability to do something, that's all that person might need. So it's a look at the characters. There's so many people in the Bible that I can relate to because their character is consistently challenged.
Hmm.
And it's our own ability to either recognize it before it's too late, or when you do, make the appropriate changes. And so that's where I'm at right now. I've come to realize that my walk with the Lord has been an inner reflection of all the stuff that I thought was right. Yeah. And that's giving me a chance to kind of correct these things as we move along. And I can only hope and pray that I kind of walk this path as He intended and stay true to it, because at the end of the day, I can be very unapologetic of my actions. If my actions are true, right, and just, then I can move forward. You know, so that's kind of where um, all these businesses will be leading into.
Right.
So Strugglers Union is
So you're
going to take a
connecting the
look.
dots with all of that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So like at a point in my life where I saw, okay, this is gonna make money. I can do this here.
Hmm.
We've been screen printing for over 2 decades. Like right out of high school, we did screen printing, and it's been a company that we've had as part of this whole endeavor. I can do this. Oh, digital graphics coming. Let's do that. Film, video. That's all coming into it. So I'm an accomplished. I would say I'm a jack of all trades and a master of a good amount of them. Because monetarily, that's where I want it to be. But now I come to understand that if I take these things and look beyond the dollar amount, how can I enact change? How can I be the difference? And that's pretty much why I feel it's led me to where we are right now.
Yeah.
So a lot of people out there right now, you guys have ideas. You have things that you've been sitting on your day-to-day job. You're thinking about, like, I'd rather do this and that. If that's the case, let me know. Chime in, comment in here what you guys want to see happen. And honestly, um, how do I say this? Honestly, those ideas that come through, to be able to have zero expectations of what's going to come from it is going to give you the best result, right? But you got to share them. And a lot of people are protective because, oh, I don't want somebody's going to take my idea, you know. And my wife can attest to this. Every single day when I turn on the infomercial, there's like a new product, and I'm like, damn it, that was my idea.
Hmm.
And my wife's like, why didn't you do anything about it? I was like, I don't know, right? So now, taking a page out of her book, like, do something about it, tell somebody about it.
Yeah. Don't just have an idea, because an idea is worthless if there's no action on it.
That's it. And firsthand, because you're in it. You successfully have produced some products. You successfully
Yeah.
found a market and sold it.
That blue paddle board. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did that.
yeah. So you know what it takes, and it does take a good amount of work. But that's why the network is so important.
Yeah.
I guarantee, if you reach deep down, if you pull out that cell phone that's in your pocket that you spend $1,000 on just to watch videos, if you use it, call somebody you haven't talked to forever, see what they're up to, call a classmate, see what they're up to, look on Facebook, stalk somebody that you never thought about looking up before, and find out what they're doing and reach out to them. You'd be surprised the response.
I was surprised. I got him on the show.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here because we actually collaborated on one endeavor earlier on, and I'm looking to see if we can actually still push that. And so, I just hope that we can circle back to that idea. But I really appreciate the time here.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been really
Absolutely.
inspirational. I think it's going to help out a lot of people.
I hope so too. I hope so too. And I'll be here too. Any questions coming way, let me know.
Yeah, just comment below or contact us directly on Facebook, Instagram, Hawaii Real.
Hawaii Real.
Yeah, and as always, Kanoho, thank you again.
Yep.
Stay happy, Hawaii.
Thank you.